Hello, my name is Josue, and for my project, I kind of came up with a name called Consolidated Works. And my whole idea is to bring Heritage Works into a collaboration between other cultural organizations around Detroit to promote the idea of cultural growth and cultural understanding and knowledge. So as I researched Heritage Works, I kind of got to know like their mission statement and everything like that. So instead of having it laid down, this is Heritage Works, this, I created this sort of symbolic language. And then from there, I kind of looked at other organizations that might have like similar aspects to it and kind of make their own symbol from that. And here is kind of like the consolidated work symbol. In order to explain that symbol, I created this poem, and it underlines what Heritage Works wants to achieve and what, and like just helping the youth and helping other people learn things like that. So from there, I wanted to use the poem as a literary device, also as a space gathering or space outlining device, where each line will represent a different space or area in the building, and from there, depending on how long the line is, syllable-wise, it would create a different heights and different heights on a section cut of it. But then from there, I went back and did the same thing with my spaces here, where I would identify each space and then rearrange it in a kind of like a collaborative way. And then from there, I went back into the poem to see what I could get out of then diffracting this poem like I did my spaces. And what I found was that this repetitive boom, boom, tap, 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 boom kind of became a core to the poem. And from there, that kind of gave me the idea of an internal rehearsal space that each building, depending on the organization, would have, and it would just outline that would be like a radial plan from it. So I did the poem, and then from the poem I got this shape here for like the building, and you can see here the first floor plan, second floor plan, just kind of an outline of it. And then the other organizations I chose were the Detroit Asian Youth Program, the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, and the Arab and Chaldean Council. They seem to have the same values that you guys have, so those are the ones I chose. So for my site, I decided to go on the corner of, or the block of Wabash, Butternut, Vermont, and Temple Street. And then this block would be the symbolic representation of the symbol here, where all the urban should come together, and it's just there's a cultural embassy that can come out of it. So going into my lab aspect of this and how Heritage Works wants to be an impactful organization in Detroit, I kind of used the word impact to go off of my material studies. So I started hitting things and see what would happen, like what I would get out of it. And what I saw was that the things that tend to break in a certain way, depending on how you strike it. So in order to get a more pronounced crack, you could say, I used rock candy and broke that and see what happened in different ways. For instance, the hammer swing, a controlled swing, was this, and then the drop hammer was this, and then if you throw a hammer, it's a different pattern as well. But out of that study, what I got out of it was that something is either broken or not broken, so there's not really anything in between. So from there, so that aspect would be coming back to a performative space, which would be center of all the organizations and kind of represents a part of each organization as well. And then the aspect that comes from this back to here is that the performance space would be taken down and taken up depending on the events and the number of events you guys have, so that when there is an event, you guys are impactful at that moment. There's just a big kind of like the annoying casino across the street where there's lights and everyone knows it's a casino, but here, everyone would know something's going on in this cultural environment. So starting from that, I decided to do some sketches of what this could be when it comes to other, even more organizations, not just the four. So I kind of laid it out as a radial grid. I kept going as what happens if you combine the radial grid with what a pedestrian would want, where a pedestrian, instead of going these curvy lines, they would just want to go straight across the block or whatever.
What happens at the center?
At the center is a performative space. So it's your, not for rehearsals, but for the actual events happening. The rehearsal space would be in each side, or in each one of these buildings from there. So then you overlay this other grid where you have this inner space that's intimate with the performance area, but there's all of these other spaces that look into the performance area, but not necessarily interact with it directly. Then what happens when it comes back to a regular orthogonal grid, how the spaces interact with that, so the center kind of moves here, creating this quadruple area here along this base. And then what happens when you add both layers, the radial and the orthogonal grid. So those are kind of just studies I was doing with the block itself. But as for the performative space, what I was thinking of was more like an accordion to where it's stored. It doesn't look like much, but when it comes out and plays, it has like a performance to it. It's not just, here's this thing, look at it. So what I was thinking was have this atrium able to fold down and go into kind of, we'll go into like a passive state where it's not really showing again any interest until there's that performance area. And those are just different sketches that I had. That's where I am now.
Well, I will say as a person who presents events that the staging of the event often is used to build the excitement. And so when we can have stuff like we had this group come in from Pennsylvania and they have a big Mack truck and trailer, and then they unfold the trailer and they start building this crazy thing that waves around and makes smoke and music and carrying on. And we did that in the middle of Woodward Avenue and received a lot of media, real early in the morning watching this thing come to life. And then they came back to see what the heck was the show. And so it did pull a lot. So that does work. Building the set does begin to heighten the expectation and interest of the audience as well as the media. So I do see that, this little box. So even in Campus Martius, you notice that the stages are sidewalks. And then the hydraulics lift them up 4 feet, and that always freaks people out, oh my God, okay. So it's a big deal, and just adds to the interest of it. Those are elements that I do think that wherever we are, I think we're all interested in having an outdoor space. We're certainly wanting to be able to do indoor presentations, but definitely want to be able to come outside and utilize green space or plaza space or something.
I like the village aspect of this. I think we talked about it before.
Yeah.
But again, there needs to be an inside. There needs to be an inside option as well because of weather.
Right.
And even if that's wherever the outdoor performance space is, we need access to load in and load out. So I'm assuming that that's must be what this is. But you have to be able to bear weight.
Right.
To get in and out. They have major trucks bringing stages and stuff. That's just very
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Consider the amount of electricity that will be needed to support an event. How big the event is, how many lights and things that you need.
Yeah, I was thinking like a big major we're over here, these are lights, come check us out.
Yeah.
One of the things at Campus Martians too is that they did everything well. It's a great space. Of course, they brought us in after they were in construction. And so we have no production area. Behind the stages, we are immediately hit with the flower beds, or at the other end, we're immediately hit with the fountain. There's no pathway for production people to get behind these stages. We just kind of have made it work. And there's also no facility outdoors where we could have a dressing room, a little office, you know, there's nothing there to support the productions. And so whether or not that's happening within these other spaces, if not, though, there has to be something
really
there to
important.
support the production.
What are there other production-related activities that you can think of? Because that's one thing they haven't really talked about, but I think based on what you're saying, it's really important that it gets incorporated and thought about and intentional. So,
Another thing about loading in the trucks and things like that is, even if you have a space or an area where you can back the truck in and unload it, then you have to park it 3 blocks away, and if you forget something in the truck, then you have to
it's a
go
pain,
in there.
yeah.
So that happens out just.
It's interesting, like the trucks being on the site, I mean, they help to begin and enclose the site too. That means part of that production.
Right.
So think about that, like how things are concealed, but how things are help to fill in some ways and help kind of create that anticipation.
So when you do an event, the security lives there the whole time? I mean, most people are in touch with the magic of the event, but not all the support of it.
Yeah.
And so like security and all the production things that go on. Like I said, I used to hate doing some things because it was just so hard to get in and out of.
Yeah, at least with this layout here, there is definitely room for like small little huts or
Porta potties.
porta potties, yeah, stuff like that.
And then the surface, just what is that performance surface? Just, I know this may be ahead of where you're planning, but to begin to think about what is that?
That's a good question.
The African dancers, right, African dancers are good on grass, it's true, but, yeah. But most people are, you know, needing something, and then there's gotta be a stage built if there's a band, and how the seating is gonna fit in with the location of the presentation space, whether it's the ground or the stage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just looking at how this fits in.
Question I had is, with this being circular, so would you envision the audience being around viewing in? So you would be
360.
sound, for instance, would speakers be aiming out that way, or is there going to be a stage here and sound aiming that way?
Right, with one of my studies, I did come across that, what I found was more successful was here with this orthogonal, thank you, grid, is that the stage would be more towards the right, where the audience would then see kind of outlined by the buildings here, outlined piece 4 would be piece 4 here, so they'd be outlined to be here and listen this way.
So how important, like the idea of the stage or it being flat, how important is that you have potentially both options or one or the other? Because part of it, to me, I understand the idea, like the stage has certain effects and provides certain value, but it kind of separates the audience from performance. And I don't know how you think of that or how you value that, or if it's something, because without a stage can be more immersive. So I guess
It's like an option because
to what degree do you want
we have so
flexibility?
many different
Right.
types of events.
Yeah, so it's kind of like an outdoor black box.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see it.
To be able to bring in the stage and take it out. That's the deal, is so often people make these permanent stages.
You're right.
And the problem is that you create a 16 by 16 foot stage, and then we bring this big dance troupe that needs 40 by 40. You know what I mean? So to me, the opportunity to be fluid in a space and have the space be ready to be flexible in the staging brought in proper to the activity. Because even the Fox
Yeah.
can't do
Yeah.
certain things just based on the fact that they're a permanent
set this.
that it's all set.
Yeah, that definitely helps my thinking of it anyways. Yeah.
What is this happening right here though?
So this would be like the awning of the performance stage. Yeah, this would be the awning, like one of the sections of the awning, and this could go parallel across the stage. So the stage and the awning would be different. They would have like the audio. This would be like the audio links, the audio travel, and then the stage itself would be the performance area. So now that I know that stage needs are like good, come up with something else for that. The one thing actually after I made this that I kind of got interested in was that it has this idea of being something else as well. It could be like a weather guard, like during some raining or something, you just need shelter. It could be up like that. Instead of retracting it down, it could just serve as that kind of space. But here, this was just kind of a material test, like what different materials. There's like a more rigid material versus a more cloth type material. And then here, again, it's another study of that cloth, of how this would.
You know, this made me just think too, that one of the things that happens down at Campus Martius that was not thought of necessarily is that on a nice hot summer day when we're doing activities, there's no audience in front of the stage because everybody's on the side trying to be under the umbrellas and the trees. And so that whole big long park in the heat or an uncovered stage gets really hot and then the dancers are very uncomfortable. So just remembering those things as a part of the consideration. Because this is an interesting thought to me of creating some type of, I don't know if lattice work is the right words, but you know, something that's easy
Yeah.
to create that kind of shading that could help an audience be comfortable.
All right, great. Thanks. All right.